Fresh haircut and a fresh 2023 review. Let's review It Lives Inside. It Lives Inside stars Megan Suri, Mohana Krishan, and is directed by Vishal Dutta. What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2023 horror review, It Lives Inside. I saw the trailer for this a couple weeks ago and it immediately jumped out at me. It just looked like something that would be right up my alley. It looked really dark, it looked really sinister. I couldn't really tell by the trailer, and I wasn't focused in on what the characters were saying fully, but it definitely looked like one of those, I guess, evil-ish.
All the stories we heard growing up, they're all true. It lives inside. Don't you hear it? Only you, Shanti. Only you, Shanti.
I even have a playlist called Evil Things on my channel, where anything that has to do with demon possession, evil shit, you go to that playlist and it's all that. It's great. By the way, check out my playlist, guys. My slasher playlist has 287 slasher reviews. 287! But I got freaking Evil Things, psychotic horror, creatures. I might even have a vampires playlist. I can't remember, but yeah, I playlist everything. You know, it's a big part of what I do. I like to make it easy for you guys to access, because I constantly get you guys saying, hey, you need to review this, or have you review this? And I'm like, I've reviewed it. You know, go to the playlist, it makes it easier to find, or you can do the search function too. But I thank all you guys for watching my reviews. I know you're busy. I know you don't have time to go type in Drumdums in whatever movie, you know? So nothing wrong with asking me. Also, this is a patron requested review. This is the first time a patron has requested a review of a new release. So good on you, Angela. Angela Lee, who has been a patron for quite a few years. And I always appreciate her support. She's an absolute sweetheart. And she always gives me great recommendations. So yes, Angela, this one is for you. But It Lives Inside, culturally speaking, I am loving all these different cultures, you know, different demographics, I guess, doing their own horror movies. You have pretty much, you know, every nationality doing horror review. I mean, we got freaking Candyman way back in the day, right? But you got Curse of La Llorona for your Latino folk. And now this is an Indian movie, although there's there's diversity. There's quite a few different characters in here. She goes to a high school, so of course there's going to be that. But the point I'm trying to make is that I was reading, you know, the director's notes on this, and Vishal Dutta, he was stating that when he was younger, he grew up on Jaws and Nightmare on Elm Street and, you know, Friday the 13th, a lot of those horror classics. The Shining, I know he specifically mentioned The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Jaws. And he stated that, wouldn't it be interesting to see what would Indian characters be doing during this particular story, right? And he was just highly influenced by these classics that he grew up with, you know. So I want to make a horror movie that hones in on my culture and maybe even have this demon curse. Obviously, when you watch this movie, there's going to be a lot of thematic elements to it. A lot of digging beneath the surface. What is causing this madness to happen, right? And some movies are more straightforward, you know, surface level. You just have a creature or a killer or whatever, and you got your protagonist. But sometimes it's fun that you can dig beneath the surface. So anyway, let me give you a quick plot synopsis before we go any further in this. Megan Suri plays Samita. She goes to this high school, and she has this childhood friend named Tamira. And we've seen this type of story in a lot of movies where childhood friends, eventually when they become teenagers, they kind of split off, they go different directions, they get, you know, they sometimes just jump into different peer groups. One might become the popular girl, the cheerleader, and the other one might not be that. Sometimes it can be awkward for one or both parties, usually the party that seems to be more popular. And that's one thing that seduced me about this movie. I guess like teenagers in different factions in high school. High school is such a weird place to begin with. It's like a different planet. Once you're out of high school, then you get into the real world and you don't deal with that bullshit as much. Yeah, it can exist, but not nearly as profound as in high school. Their relationship ties directly into the horror of this movie because Tamira, you can tell that something's off about her. She doesn't seem like, I guess, your normal happy teenager, even visually. And Samita, she's feeling pressure from her family to be there for Tamira. But Tamira has this jar and she's keeping this entity inside of the jar. And she is confronted with Samita and she's telling her, I have to protect this jar because if whatever gets out can cause a lot of messed up shit. This is one of those horror movies where there's like a device or even like a person or something. And you have to either take it with you or you have to protect it or you have to run from it, like say in like It Follows. But there's always like some kind of object or device that is dangerous. Hellraiser, another great example. So this one, it's this jar that is, I guess, housing this danger. So as you can imagine, I mean, we wouldn't have a movie if it didn't happen. Of course, whatever's in that jar does get out and then all hell breaks loose. That's your basic plot setup here. Now let's talk about the actual horror of this movie. If you're looking for like blood and guts, you're gonna get that. It gets pretty grisly, actually. If you're looking for tension, that's definitely here too. This movie doesn't depend on just one type of scare. There's quite a variety of different scare tactics throughout this movie, but I think more importantly, it's story focused. You know, everything that happens in this movie, horror-wise, is a direct result of the actual story and the characters, and these characters are kind of making this stuff happen. And this is a very character-based horror movie. And I love that it deals with a particular culture. Whatever's in this jar, it kind of ties in with the Indian culture. You can kind of relate this to like even like Asian cultures. When I was stationed in Japan, in their religion, and I'm no expert, okay? But I know that there are certain like demons and curses and what have you. And you can dig deep into pretty much any culture and there's gonna be some kind of heaven and hell, demonic, whatever type stuff. I mean, hell, Halloween's freaking Samhain, you know? It's all there. I mean, why do you think they make movies about good and evil so much? Because it's relatable, right? Because it kind of ties into a lot of our religions. And so no difference here, but I like that it really hones in on the Indian culture. Really, when you get right down to it, this stuff is pretty relatable to all cultures, you know, and really the main theme of this movie is not forgetting where you come from, respecting your culture. I guess if you compared it to like Christianity, they call it like a Jesus freak. And that's not a bad thing at all, okay? I'm not judging anybody for their level of their religion. I think it's beautiful that people lean on their religions, some more heavily than others. You know, we all do what we got to do to get through the day, right? Because our main character is kind of confused, she's pulling away, she has all these different influences outside of her own comfort zone. You know, when we're children, we're more in a bubble than when we start becoming a teenager and we start branching out. And, you know, for an example, I was in the military. Before I was in the military, I lived in Mississippi. And that's pretty much all I knew. And I was a little bit more closed-minded. But when I joined the military, and I made friends of so many different religions and walks of life and nationalities, it just opened my mind up quite a bit. So there can be good and there can be bad of that. I guess the message of this movie is don't forget where you come from. But I will say the actual entity, and I'm being very, very careful because this is a brand new movie. I don't want to spoil anything. People take spoilers in different ways. I'll say this, there are a lot of movies where there's a lot of symbolism in, let's call it a creature, right? Like the movie The Monster. I could definitely compare this movie to that because that movie, the movie's called The Monster. You think, could they actually show an actual monster in the movie or is it all symbolic, right? And I recommend that movie. People don't talk about The Monster enough. This is the same type of deal, right? There is a creature in this movie. But how much of that creature they show, if any at all, you'll have to find out for yourself. But I will say, and this is stuff that's established early on in the movie, a lot of the deaths that happen are from an invisible entity. Hell, I was getting like Predator vibes through a lot of this movie, which is kind of cool because, you know, you can't see what's there in front of you. And it can definitely reach out and touch you and hurt you. But I like how this movie just constantly kept you guessing. I like that it kind of delved into the Indian culture a little bit more without getting away from the actual story and even the horror. You know, this is a horror movie. It doesn't veer out. As a matter of fact, the culture is a major part of what's causing the horror. Now, as far as any cons, I'd probably have to give this movie another watch because I don't know if it stands up next to a lot of movies that I've seen in the past decade of this type genre that really make a mark. Like, I could say like The Dark and the Wicked. I think that movie really made a mark. So I don't know if this movie sends it home as great as it could have. It's not boring at all, and it definitely has some striking visuals throughout. Great performances, and I did like that there's a little bit of a message behind the movie, right? So overall, guys, I'm gonna give It Lives Inside a high humdrum, okay? Definitely worth your time. I think it's a fun watch for a horror fan. And by the way, it's a true dyed-in-the-wool horror movie too. I don't think this is a good like gateway horror movie. There's some scary shit in this. So let me know your thoughts on It Lives Inside if you get a chance to watch it. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on all my socials, support me on Patreon, buy me a coffee. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.